I'm going to study Visual Studio's source code. I'm going to try to understand first how they decide the path to show for a new project whenever you're gonna open the folder. And depending on how fast I can figure that out, I'm just gonna spend more time studying because I'm curious about how it works as well. I don't know anything about the source code. The only thing that I know, which I'm not also not 100% sure, is that they use Electron, which is a framework that allows you, as far as I understand now, to develop applications by using JavaScript and HTML and CSS. And it's probably built with C++, the application, the framework, but you develop with JavaScript. But I'm not really sure about this. So I'm just gonna go look into the source code and see if I can figure stuff out. And I'm basically gonna search for the labels here. So what I'm gonna search first is this thing here, I think. So basically what I'm trying to figure out is how do they decide after you click this button here, what happens? Like how do they choose the default path there to show? Because I assume that they're probably gonna use an API or something like that. And I wanna do the same on the Godot stuff that I'm trying to build. I'm gonna look into the tips. So I'm just gonna wait to see if it's streaming, and then I'm gonna search stuff. And this is the way you do it, I think. So I'm pretty sure that's how it works. When you use the file log on Godot, you can use this set current directory to determine what's gonna open the first time that they open the dialog. So instead of putting the special path here, I'm gonna see if I can can use whatever they use. Yeah, so it's built on the browser, I think. So maybe this is an interesting thing to, but I'm probably not gonna spend time studying this, studying Electron source code. Yeah, so it's C++ basically. So they are using the browser engine to render stuff, and then they build the. So Electron is going to be the bridge, the API between the browser engine that is written in C++ and the developer that is going to build the application. So I assume it's very similar to building a website or something like that. I wonder how. I think they probably use Vulkan nowadays on Chrome, I would assume. That's whatever. So I'm just gonna search the things. Good thing about doing this is that's gonna make me better at using VS Code as well. It would be much better if I could start up the debugger. Maybe I should try to do this. Wonder if they have a explanation on the documentation. Probably on the developer, whatever. Yeah. Let's try this. I don't expect to like learn a lot because it's gonna be very complex and it's gonna be very hard to understand how they are rendering stuff. Because the rendering, like how does the design of the thing works, and at what moment does it connect the front end parts of the JavaScript with the JavaScript TypeScript and CSS HTML? How does that connect with C and C++? And just look at the source, like from the labels and the tooltip, it's not gonna allow me to understand the overall. It's gonna be very hard to understand the flow of how everything is connected. If I can set up the debugger, then it's gonna be easier, I think, because I can just stop at the entry points and then just step over. That would be very interesting, but I don't expect to be able to do this. This is usually annoying to set up the debugger on VS Code for the first time. And I think that this is most likely the transpiled version of the code, or maybe not, because it does not one letter keywords, but because of the nature, because of the functions here, I think there's probably another place that has the codes. I hate TypeScript. It doesn't make any sense for me. That's a math. So it's gonna be something related to the functions there, the because obviously it has AMD there, so I assume that's something based with the hardware, and depending on what kind of hardware he's using. Obviously, it's gonna be related. I wasn't expecting to be related to the hardware, but the OS obviously, yes, because the OS is the thing that is gonna control the hardware. But Oh, I had this problem before. I think that's the reason why I didn't build the first time that I saw this, because I knew it was gonna be a pain in the ass. And the issue is this. I think this is a package or something on no. Yeah, it's not the Node.js. Node.js tries to get this package, but this has some stuff to do with Python. And then because of the wheel, like you can't find. I vaguely remember a long time ago. I tried to understand what was going on with this on a stream, and it is on a file there where like they don't have a condition for the type of, I think it's architecture or operational, either architecture or operational system or both that I'm using, and is because of the code that this library runs that tries to build some stuff. Tries to use the command line and then build some stuff. And it's just very annoying to figure this out. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to look into the. I don't think it's worth it to spend a bunch of time trying to figure this out. And it's like a command line code that NodeGIP uses to find Python, and then it does other stuff as well. And then there's a file on the NodeGIP that has the logic there, the conditions. It checks for, I think it checks for the operational system or something like that. Yeah, it's something to do. I think it is something to do with 64 bits and 30 bits. The logic that it uses to find the stuff on Windows is incorrect, I think, or something like that. Is when he's building this command here. It's very annoying. I'm gonna search for node git. I wonder if if it probably builds a node modules folder. Maybe I should just spend time looking to the source files. I'm trying to gauge or have an idea of the structure of everything. Part of me wants to go back to this thing again and try to figure out. I remember the last time that I went over this, I stopped because I thought I had to go over the way that they, because when you're using Windows, NodeGip's gonna use, I think, VS or something like that, and I didn't understand because I didn't know C++ and C in the build systems yet. So I think I thought that I had to figure out how, figure out, see the source codes that they use to build. So maybe now that I understand more, it would be easier to figure out. But I know that it would take a long time to. I think that it would take a long time to see. The source. Because I'm curious, I'm just gonna go to the folder there I was talking about. So it's trying to use Node to execute a JavaScript file and with the command rebuild. I just want to see if I can remember what the problem was. Because it was on a different context as well. So I think it was like a different file. So it looks like there's a different error here as well. It's saying that it couldn't connect. But I think it's probably the same error. Yeah, I think it has to do with the 32. This is something. It's whatever. Maybe off stream I'll try to spend time like figuring out how to build to solve this thing and to build. But I think it's probably not worth it, to be honest. This is interesting. So obviously they're using the process same here. App data assume that is the same path. So this one I'm pretty sure that is a standard path that all the applications are gonna use on Windows. In Linux probably is a different one and the Mac is a different one. But it's gonna be on the C users, then your username, app data, and then it's gonna be either on local or roaming or both. And then the name of the application. And I think that's they use code on the VS Code. And that's how they save a bunch of stuff. But this is different than the path that they showed there in the beginning. In the beginning they showed the quick access, I think, but they're basically selecting based on this process here. So the process has the information. I'm not really sure how they initialize this. It probably comes from a library, probably from the OS or path library. So I'm pretty sure that data is. So this is obviously getting the environment variables from the process. Which I'm also not, so I was gonna see if there is any .env files. But I think probably no, it's probably environments. I'm not really sure how it works because like the system has environment variables, but I'm not really sure the connection between the process there and the. So I guess I have to search for the libraries. I'm gonna ask Perplexity to see if it gives anything. And it's probably related to the other. I'm gonna close the other tabs here. So the main, on the source, main TS is probably the entry point. I think that's what makes the most sense. The build folder is probably where he puts the files after the build. CLI is probably a bunch of useful things to help with the command line, obviously. The extensions is probably folder related to helping with the extension stuff. This scripts is probably stuff related to the build system as well. Oh, so maybe it already has the. I'll close this. I'm gonna write down the thing there, like the pattern. So opening a folder, close. Let's be open editors. So the way that it works for debugging on VS Code, also they already have the build. So the way that it works based on the .vs, I think it's VS Code folder, .vs Code folder, that you put on the any project you put, any project you on VS Code, on any project, if you put this .vs Code folder, you can put this task.json and this launch.json files. The task.json is going to be whatever runs before the debugger runs, and the launch.json is going to be the command that executes the thing that you're going to debug. So they already have on the source code the builds, but I think it's probably not going to work because of this node git thing here. But obviously I'm gonna try, just see what happens. But maybe it does work. But this is also interesting because then obviously I can look into the what commands they are using to build and what commands they are using to run, and then I can go based on this on the source as well. So there is some stuff for tasks. I assume that the first one is gonna be like the main one, probably. Main configuration. So you can see based on the name, I think. So here the name is the configuration that shows there. It should be the first one actually. Hmm. This is this one. So, oh, I guess it's because it's on another key there. So I think here is on order probably. I think maybe it's different the way that you do it because so far I only did it for C++ projects, C and C++ projects. So it might be different for Node projects. But yeah, I think this one is gonna be this configuration here that's showing here. It's probably gonna run all these commands because this is probably the other configuration. So it runs the 4 configurations. Yeah, so it's using the scripts on the scripts to build. So here is gonna be code bats to build for Windows, code sh to build for Linux and OS X. Well, the other thing that I think is on the so the on C++ you put the like one of the key value pairs is gonna be the name or the name of the task that you run before running this. But I'm not really sure if it's the same here. It doesn't look like he has anything. Because obviously, like you don't need a task as well. The task is just if you want to run something after before the main thing runs, which you're trying to debug. So I'm not really sure if there's anything associated with that one. And it looks like it's running npm. I think we specified the label on the launch to run the task first. So it probably runs npm first. It's whatever. So I'm gonna close the other stuff here. As I'm gonna go from the main and from the scripts first. Then I'll look for the pattern again. To see if I can bridge the gap. It's easier to bridge the gap. But I think so just based on the main there, I think probably they're gonna be using the process they're gonna be using the process class to run a function to figure out where the path is. So I have to figure out what is the I don't know, I'm not really sure how from where it's gonna get the environment variables. I think it's from the thing is like, obviously it's gonna depend on the operational system. So I have to clarify this. So I was gonna look into the scripts here. So is code that scripts. Then code sh for the just build's not gonna give me much. So you're just using Node. There's another path here. I think it might be where they put the final files. So build lib pre-launch JS. Lib. Oh, it's because this is for Linux. So it might be different on Windows. Oh, here. On process. The spawn comes from this child process. It's just gonna run the process. So this process has to come from the path library because it has both here and on the other one. So I'm gonna ask Perplexity to see. Yeah, it's not that interesting. So I'm gonna go over the main first. We're just gonna run nodes, and then it's gonna run this file attribute things. This file probably runs the commands using the spawn stuff here. So it's running this, and it's running the commands using spawn. So it runs npm, depending on the platform. And this is gonna run the thing here, which uses spawn to spawn a process. So it's like it's running this stuff on the command line from the file. So it runs npm run electron and npm run compile. I'm gonna see if, what happens if I put there. Here is gonna be the same thing. So I'm gonna go from main. So first I'm gonna see what happens if I do this. I think it's gonna break because of the node git stuff. The folder doesn't have .env, so obviously assume that either Perplexity is wrong or it's just you guess the path from another place and that's just a default thing or an optional path. Choose the environment variables instead. Or it's something that happens after you build. Is that so app is electron. So it looks like it's gonna get the paths on the VS platform. Hmm. path dot stocks. It's probably because of the node gip. So, but I'm pretty sure it tries. So it uses node to run that file that I just looked at. Oh, it's deleted this. And then that file is gonna run the command lines which are gonna use npm or the other command based on the operational or yeah, based on the platform. And then after it runs npm, it's gonna build Electron and the other thing that it had there. So that's basically how they build, I think. So it runs npm Electron and then npm compile, I think. That's whatever. Yeah, so it's basically the error there. As it tries to build this node gip and then it fails. Hmm. So maybe the .vs. I'm gonna see here if it exists. So it doesn't have here. So I assume what is happening is that the reason why I have the .vs folder on there is because I ran npm first. So the .vs is where the files that are related to the Windows version are gonna be put at. So like after you try to build, it's gonna start putting files on the .vs folder because it's probably gonna be using MSVC for as a default to compile the C++ code from Electron, I think. So when I tried to build again, it deleted the files that I had there. Oh no, it's on the source. So maybe it does have on the... Maybe it already has. Oh, it already has here. So why... I, I think it deleted the... The thing is I forgot the path. The node modules files. To me, it makes the most sense that the build files are gonna be somewhere on the build folder. So like after you build, it's gonna put the final files here, or the compile files. Obviously, I'm not really sure how it works, but I assume that the Electron parts of this stuff is gonna have object files, and the JavaScript parts is gonna have the node modules folder somewhere. So I think it has something to do with this, the reason why it was going there, and then it delete it after. So now I ask you. Maybe this is the path. Just go down. So it's not gonna be the same because this is the key. So I'll have to understand how does it get there. I think just this is just if you have a path on the environment variables, and if you don't, it gets from here. So I guess this path here is gonna be this one. But the user data path is gonna be the roaming app data roaming code path. I think that's how it works. So the question is, so it's probably gonna be like on the same folder. OS home there. I think they are probably using this library to, well, obviously what I'm gonna do is study these libraries later. Because I think that it is probably using this OS library and it's gonna use one method like this one to determine which path should display there in the beginning. So I have to see how the library gets the path. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. Code cache path. It's gonna be the same thing there. So this is Electron. So looks like it is events and then callback function for the event. Load our code once running. So there is no obvious connection between these parts and the other stuff there on the other file. It's called electron main. Yes, go and comments. Electron main. I assume that this is their code and not Electron's code. I think Electron is gonna be. I don't understand how. That's probably why he uses NodeGIP or something like that. Yeah, I think NodeGIP is more for Python, but I do remember there is like something related to the VS or MSVC compiler, so NodeGIP might be related to this. I don't know. Like it's not very clear the connection, the bridge between the code you write and the Electron, but I think it's gonna be somewhere along the node modules thing. So because they import there from Electron, so I think that it builds Electron separately, and then the code on Electron is exposed as a module, node module, and then whatever, like all this code here is gonna be from VS Code, I think. That's how it works. So I think that's their parts, their interface with Electron. And maybe VS Code entry points. This class can exist more than once. For example, try running, and the second instance is start from the command line. You know, we always try to communicate. Blah blah blah. And so this is probably what runs in the beginning. So this is probably the connection of the like the main part and the other class there that has the pattern. I should look for the tooltip again or the label. Figure service, blah blah blah. This is what I'm trying to understand. Register implementation. Doesn't have anything. So it's probably used somewhere inside of one of the classes that initializes there, I think. Implements I register. I don't remember TypeScript really well, but I think interface is just an abstract base class. Or it works in a similar way, so it provides a template for the classes that inherit from it, and then implements probably like this is probably the template of a class, and these are virtual functions. So whenever you inherit or implement, you have to define the functions. So the question is how is related. Okay, so this is gonna be this as view registry. Hmm. So is adding this to the map there? How does it work? It's basically gonna be an event. Let me maybe if I search for a view here. Like what I assume so since this is the main class, yeah, this is basically the main thing, I think. So it's gonna run this, which is gonna start everything, and this one is gonna start all these classes. So I assume in one of these classes there's gonna be something related to this view. Because I'm trying to find the connection between the message here. I assume that the object that puts here has information about the events, and but I'm trying to, I have no idea about the connection of, because obviously I want to see what happens after you click. So I think this sets up like callback functions or whatever. This is gonna put this as an ID there on the map. So it's gonna save as this view content descriptor. So it's gonna save on the map on the class as this type here. And this thing probably when it calls this is gonna fire the events. So it's gonna run the function, I think, for the events. So this would be the ID there, I think. So I think this is just like it's sending the event, but it's not the thing that is gonna call the function. So I have to figure out how this is like the connection of the events. Now this is this is the class that determines who's gonna emit. So it's saving the events on this class. So what is the connection? Just emitter. So the emitter class is going to manage the events. It's storing the events. Yeah, so now I have to figure out what class is gonna be using this view registry. Instantiation, state manager. Because that class is the one that fires, but obviously I need to see how they connect the events. It's gonna be, I think this is gonna be here. I can just search for the class here as well. Just see. Let me uh, put just this main. Oh, this source vs electron main. Hmm. So it's not on codes. Let me think about this. And this looks interesting as well. Yeah, service. I think this disposable is the same one that the other one was using, or is related to the other one. I don't understand very well how it's related, but I think it is related to the other, the event emitter thing. Sure. So this function is basically the same there. I think it might be better to work backwards. I'm gonna like continue to read the file there from that the function, the service function. This one has the same function that the other one has, I think. I think it has. I think it is the same. Let's view registry. What is the connection? So maybe it's on the other. So I'm thinking that is different parts, obviously. I always had a problem with this thing with TypeScript that goes to the definition. I don't like this very much because it's on the way that I think it doesn't allow me to like the definition or the definition, the declaration, it doesn't tell me anything about how it works. So it's kind of pointless to go to the declaration. It makes a lot more sense to go to the definition. And now like the problem is that I'm not really sure if it's gonna be this one or another one, but it's probably this. So the key is gonna be this, and this is the message. So I think that this has something to do with the way that Electron works, probably. So they're building the string with this pattern here. I think that's like it's basically the same pattern as Markdown, I think. Where you put the link on the. I always forget the order. I think the description is here and the link is here. So here probably this command here is a way that Electron is gonna parse, I think. It's gonna parse and it's gonna get this ID based on the platform. I'm not really sure about this. And I think that obviously the group here is gonna have something to do with the way that they decide what function to run. I think is that this goes instead of this object here. That's probably something else. Here is the connection, I think. So that's why I thought there was a connection there. It's because of this thing here. So I think that this means that it returns a disposable. Yeah, so it's returning a disposable. And disposable is the same that the file service inherits from. Yeah, extends disposable. So I think that this classes implements. So it's basically gonna be like all the classes are gonna inherit from the either inherit or use the event emitter. And that's basically what is happening on this one. Also extends disposable as well. And so this one is the one that is used on this view registry here. Registry as which is this class. Yeah. But maybe not. But I think it's similar, but it's probably not the same. And I think they are not directly connected. So the challenge is to bridge the gap there between the classes on the main and the one that has the message there. So I'm pretty sure now that's like it's gonna be that class is gonna be it's gonna be caching events, and then at some point it's gonna use like because of it stores everything on the map. So the map has the ID of the event. The value is gonna be the information of the event, and it does that based on that class there. But it's not directly. It's kind of confusing. Yes, it's not directly related to disposable. It is indirectly related because of the function there. And the function is the thing that is confusing me because I guess this like yeah this is very confusing because this class it doesn't define it doesn't define the function that the other one is using. That's why it's weird. I'm just defining this add here. As iViews registry. So this implements, I guess they are casting the type. So that this will be like static casting on C++, I think. So they're casting the view register to this type, which means that it's probably gonna be this class and not the other one. I think that's what's going on. So this class inherits from disposable and implements the iView registry. So this is the one that they are using there and not the other one. I think that's why it's kind of confusing. And that one that they are actually using inherits from disposable, which is also the other class, which is also the same class that the other class inherits from. So I think it's very similar. It's probably is the observer pattern, I think. So everything's gonna inherit from this disposable class that is gonna have the logic to manage the events. And then they use the emitter, I think, class to uh, have the functionality for the events. I think that's how it works. So this is like a store to cache events. I hate this shit. And it goes to the declaration. It's very frustrating. Or whatever. So I'm gonna continue to read. So I'm gonna close this one. And now I'm pretty sure like everything's gonna inherit from disposable. Disposable has the logic for events. So this function comes from the view registry, which inherits from disposable, which is gonna save the events. And then some other class is gonna connect with this one somehow. So this one is gonna be the one that's after you click the button, it's gonna emit an event, and then there are other classes listening to the event, to that event, and then I have to figure out what class is listening. So basically, the listening functionality. Hmm. Is- maybe this is yeah. This is the thing that is firing the events, and this is gonna be the emitter class. So this returns an emitter, I think. So register comes from disposable. Disposal is the thing that she basically adds on the store and returns the. I think does this return the? Oh, it's gonna be the ads. So it's gonna basically running this function here. Okay, so blah blah blah. So it returns the argument basically after adding on this cache, this sats. So this one is gonna return this argument, which is the class that it passes on the other one, which is the emitter. So this one is gonna be the thing that. So it's calling the fire on this class, and the fire I'm pretty sure is gonna be the thing that sends the event. So yeah, I think that the classes are gonna connect based on the functions on this one. I think it's probably gonna be based on the name or some information on the dictionary, or probably the ID or something like that. Yeah, it's gonna be related to these listeners here. Okay. So like the way that, but it's not really like a global object. Because this is gonna be from the class only. So let's just look at fire. Is the listener. So how does it add listeners? That's the question. It's probably gonna be add listener. Doesn't have a listener. Has remove listener, but not. Maybe it's below this one. That's really weird. Hmm. So the only explanation is that it adds either. Let me go back to this. So this has an ID and an object. When so this is probably the. And so this is gonna be a command, I think. View contents. It's firing based on the ID. And the question is how does it. Well, this one is the one that is gonna initialize with an empty thing. So this is basically the listener for the emitter for the class. I'll be right back. I'm gonna see like the fire one more time, and then I'm gonna try to see if I can find the connection point. So the event's gonna be basically the ID. Like this is the thing that is, but it might be based on the enum there. I forgot. It's basically there. So it's gonna be basically because this is the first argument there, and it's firing based on this thing here, mtview dot id workbench explorer mtview. So I guess it's a path. We're sending this path there, and this is gonna be, so this is gonna be the path, and it's calling fire on the emitter based on the path. So this is gonna be a string, and then it's gonna probably call here. The question is how does it, I think when it calls this function, but it seems like this one is firing the event, so I should connect before. This is the thing that is weird. So the question is how does it uh, how does it add listeners to this thing? As it's probably going to be on the deliver that it actually executes the thing. So there's value. Okay, so I'm gonna search for outside of the class, just if I can find any connection. I don't understand how it adds the listeners to the emitter. So like since it doesn't have anything on the class, and obviously the only thing that makes sense is that it's gonna be calling outside of the class somehow. I think that this is like it's gonna both store on some place there and it's gonna fire the event. So I think it's probably more likely that this place is where it fires the event and then this is the data that is being sent that is sending as on the callback, I think. But I don't understand how it's going to use this. Yeah, so the challenge is how to figure out what is gonna be the thing, the class that connects to that. So maybe the first string is, but it doesn't make sense to be the class. Maybe it's a name of the name of the function. I should see. Let's, This is used all the time. I think I don't wanna mess up the search there, but and there needs to be a connection. Or maybe there isn't. So I think it has something to do. Like the assumption that I'm making now, which might be wrong, is that it has something to do with the markdown link thing, because I think that's these things are related. So probably like the commands, the stuff that is gonna run is whatever string you put here, and then it's gonna use this somewhere to find the command. But I don't like the connection still doesn't make sense to me. Of I guess I have to look into the second argument again to see how it stores this on the view registry. So it's gonna store this as data on the class, the view registry class. But then how does it use this? That's the thing. And I really don't like the way that it is. Like it just seems very confusing, everything. So I really don't like this code. A lot of the times it's hard to know, like, because I think it was very hard to not have like something complex. But like a lot of the times, I do obviously there is a difference between like natural complexity and just a complication, I think. I know a lot of the times it's hard to distinguish the two, like true, because maybe it is complex because it has to be this way because it's just the nature of the thing, but maybe it's just very confusing unnecessarily. And the feeling that I get from this is that is like unnecessarily confusing. But it might be because of I think that's is probably deeper than type. It's a problem that I have since the beginning. I think it has to do with the types. Like the not really sure if there's a way to escape this or to like do it in a more like, simpler way. And I think especially bad on TypeScript. I hate TypeScript. I think the types, but I can't really explain why though. That's the thing. So it might be a bias that I have, but for so far, TypeScript seems a lot worse when it comes to types. C++, even though it has types, it does feel better, I think. But it's also inherently confusing. But I think TypeScript is especially worse. Is even worse than. It's probably the worst that I've encountered. Even Rust that uses types a lot. Like, but I can't quite explain why. That's the thing. But I think that those strings have something to do with the commands there that I saw somewhere. I lost the thing there, but I think that probably the content here has to do with this. So because here is, I remember seeing this somewhere, I think. I think it's on here. And there's another thing I can do is just search for the labels and tooltips. But I remember for sure that I saw this run and debug thing. Maybe it's a tooltip, or maybe somewhere else. Start debugging runs. So like I think that this is the description of the button or whatever it shows there. And this is probably a function, I think, maybe. It must be that, the function there, which uses regex. Yeah, I think it has to be this function here. First arguments, let's see. I think these commands here have something to do with the other parts there. So I think that's like that's the front ends, and then it selects. I think the string there it has the command and then has that pattern. I think that is gonna find one of these commands based on the pattern that it puts there. But I'm not really sure. That's what's gonna. I can try to search for the strings. It probably is because it's the same thing, and then they encapsulate a namespace based on the pattern that they put here, and then they use the regex to figure out. So let's see. So the first would be this string. So that would be the data. But this is the reason why it's kind of suspicious. But I guess you have to pass because it has the arguments. So, but it doesn't use it for anything. Then the message would be this. That's very weird. Oh no, it's the whole no. So like it passes the shoe arguments to the function. So it uses the message here, and then it's gonna do this regex, return the results. Yeah, but I don't know. I would understand how it works. Because it seems to me that it's just going to return the message. So what's the point of doing that? Yeah, whatever. So I have to figure out how they use this. The problem is that this is gonna be, it's just gonna store there. So I can't really find the connection by looking into this one. It's just gonna be this view content here. So it's gonna add this to these values. Just this map. Is adding on this map here the content here. It does feel like overly complicated, to be honest. So I don't like it that much so far. I was gonna look for the patterns, I think. The patterns that they put on this string. Maybe that's a good idea. So maybe the comments tilted, but so the contents. I'm pretty sure that this is the description that shows there. But so this is the second argument on the localize, I think. So they are using two formats. So I think that they're gonna format the string based on this pattern here. So this is gonna be the button that shows there, probably. Open folder. Is either gonna be open folder or no? This is the link that shows. Yeah. So on this description, it has a link. I'm gonna open the other. I think that the strings, the things there are these links here. So it is probably Markdown that uses there, I think. So the description that shows here is gonna be, so it's using the add folder, so it's probably using this opening folder, so blah blah blah, open a folder. So this one is probably this. This button here is this one, and this link here is this. So this is probably the pattern that I was talking about. I think the command is gonna be. So I have to figure out how these commands work. So I don't think that's. So this is just a part of registering the events. So how can I figure out where? I think this is the part that it registers, and then Oh, so maybe it is here. This has should be this function. So how does it work? It's probably gonna be this thing. So now I have to, it's either gonna be on this class or the class that inherits from this. Probably the class inherits because as the name says, it's abstract. So it's gonna be a class that inherits from this. And it's gonna be on the constructor that it passes this thing here. But honestly, I think it's probably gonna be easier to just read the documentation than to spend a bunch of time. And I think that they're using the home path, standard home path for the operational systems. But I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the functions there. It's just very confusing. This is gonna be this URI, file URI, blah blah. Does it pass? Prefer normalize. I prefer local. Pass service, blah blah. Hmm. This looks interesting. So it's gonna be here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's gonna be these functions here that select everything. So that's for Windows, and it's probably going for Windows because it figures out that I'm using Windows. Or is because of the way that it's because I use npm install. But I can search for, which I'm probably gonna do, just remove the window. Let's see, that's probably the same name that they use for the other operational systems. Hmm. Yeah, so the annoying part about this is that I'm gonna have to, like, if I do use try to use the same path that they use here, I'm going to have to write the flow of the data to see like what each thing is gonna be, and then put everything together. But I'm pretty sure it's gonna be using that to figure out. This is the problem. If there isn't anything you have to see from other function, it's very annoying. File was that long. Inspect. Yeah, I have to see like which one's gonna initialize this, and then I have to remember. This is probably here. So the initialization of this, I have to remember. This will be 6. I don't even remember how I found this thing. Jesus. I think I saw it for the first time here. Open file action. Hmm. So it creates using this thing probably. Probably write the name on this things. But the one that is gonna have is the config, whatever. I think probably creates using this thing here, and then he's gonna put there at some point from some other part. Yeah, I don't remember how I got here, but I think that I think it was probably from the name of the function. So there's probably a class for each operational system. I think it was based on this, the name of this. Let's see if I search for this. Is gonna happen. It has to be this function here, so I have to figure out how this creates. Or it's gonna be based on the accessor there, but to figure that out it's gonna be harder, I think. Because I have to figure out when it runs this. So how are the actions related to the other stuff? The viewers, the viewer fires the event, then probably something happens. I think this is related to the link, so it might go like somewhere else. I'm gonna open because I didn't click on the link, I only clicked on the button. But, oh, it opens the same window. So I guess it's just a different way to do it. So let me see if I can find the connection point from the main. So, like action or service. It's probably this configuration service, file service. I think the configuration service is the one that uses there to initialize the other one. And the file service is the one that is going to use the configuration service. New configuration service. File service. So the other one is the one that has the path, I think. It's here. Um, so, so it's file dialog service, but I'm pretty sure that doesn't have file dialog service on this one. So I wanna remember what are the values here. So it's configuration. So it's probably the configuration service that initializes there. So this is the one. This is the main one, I think, for this file dialog, because this is the one. This is the main one that I'm interested on, because this is the one that is gonna have the functionality, I think, for this file dialog folder, whatever. Yeah. Oh, where was this again? Where was the actual definition? Probably here. I found by searching there. It doesn't have anything. But I assume that he's gonna use one of the service classes at some point to initialize the other one, and then there's gonna be a connection with that one and the viewer. So the name of the viewer there is the thing that they use to select what's gonna be the function that's gonna be called, and then it's basically gonna call that function, the open whatever, which is registered on that class, which that class has, which comes from the one on the constructor, which is probably initialized here. I think that's what's going on. So I think that the service, the configuration service here has the functionality to determine the path, and also some of the functions that I've seen there already. But now the problem is I have to like remember what the configuration service was doing exactly on the other function. This is gonna be more like the actual functionality on the files. Like maybe it is interesting to spend more time to understand how they work, so I have an idea of like how what is going on under the hood when it's like doing stuff with the files, like checking hinting types and stuff like that, and like how does it communicate, or like how does the overall design works. But I think it's just TypeScript that I don't like. It feels very confusing to me. I think that one is it feels very confusing, and the other thing that is very annoying is the declaration. When you press F12, it goes to the declaration instead of the definition. That is very annoying. So I'm gonna search for the. I forgot to. Think was this function. I'm pretty sure that the dialogue stuff related to the dialogue is gonna be the classes that create the actual dialogue. So those are the classes that I'm mainly interested on. But obviously they're gonna use the other ones. So like, yeah, this is the first thing that I'm not really sure if I'm gonna spend more time studying this, but I just wanted to see to have an idea of how they select, and based on the functions there, it's basically just finding the home directory for the operational systems. Obviously, I don't understand everything about the nuances there of how they do this, but I think that for my situation there, it probably doesn't matter that much. I can just look into the documentation. Things probably gonna be easier. But it might be interesting to spend more time studying their source code to understand more how it works. I think this was the class that I was looking at before. So it's gonna call this from the other dialogue stuff. So Electron is the thing that is gonna generate the rendering and this stuff. I think like the the TypeScript part of the code works as the front ends. So it's probably the same as the browser, the way that the browser works. So when you type JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, it serves as there's some codes on the browser that is gonna parse that, and then based on the way that it parses, it's gonna use some backend framework to actually render the stuff on the screen. So it's basically the same thing that's going on here. So that dialog class is probably the one that sends the information, and then based on this, Electron is gonna create the GUI, the file stuff. I think I can't look into it because I wasn't able to install. As if I figure out how to solve the no GIP stuff there, then like it might be interesting to go over. Like because going over with the debugger would be a lot easier, I think. This one comes from this one, which is called somewhere else. Native host, main service. Hmm. So this accessor here seems that this is the main thing that they use to initialize everything. And this, So maybe this comes from Electron. No, but this is from the extensions. I'm not really sure how this works. Doesn't have anything here. Like when is it going to initialize this or put stuff here? I'm gonna stop streaming now. I'm not really sure if it's worth it, to be honest, to spend a bunch of time on this. I think it's just gonna be easier to look into the documentation of all the operation systems and look for the home. And probably Godot already has the. I'm not. I think they probably have the home directory functionality. But if they don't, then what I can do is just go over the documentation, just figure out how to. If there is any function, which I assume there probably is on the operational systems, to get the home directory, and then I just change the classes on Godot. But it might be like I might spend some time trying going drawing the connections on SkyDraw and then trying to clarify the flow of data to see how exactly they're gonna build the path. But I'm pretty sure that they are using their home directory for the whatever they show first. There's like the standard home directory, and it's gonna be these classes here that are related to the dialog. So the dialog classes are the ones that build the data that is going to be used by Electron on the back end to actually build the file dialog. I think this builds the data and they use these other classes which are probably initialized there on the beginning. It's just very annoying to figure out because as always everything is connected and you can see the data. But maybe I'll spend some time trying to figure out trying to solve the node GIP stuff and then like with the debugger it would be a lot easier, I think, if I could step over and then just see the data. Because then it would allow me to see, like, I could put breakpoints on the parts that I'm interested on and then stop on there. So I might try to do this. Because this one I remember I already went over this. But the time that I faced this, I didn't know some stuff that I know now. So it might be easier to see if I can figure out. But maybe it's not going to be possible as well. Because I do remember the last time that I tried to fix this was something like I thought I need to have access to an executable or something to be able to. But I do remember it was something to do with a control flow that checks for the platform, and the one that I'm using it didn't have the option there. And I think that it searches for an executable. I think it searches for a C++ compiler, but I'm not 100% sure. So it searches both for Python and then the C++ compiler, and it does that by building a command line argument. As far as I remember, that's. And then when it tries to search, because it doesn't have the option, it breaks, and then it shows this error message here. I think that's what's going on. But I'm not even like if I maybe to figure out again how like where the problem is coming from. I'm not really sure if I'm going to be able to solve, and I'm not sure if it's worth it to spend the time. Like I think it might be worth it just because going over the source code on VS Code is gonna help me. It's gonna allow me to become better at understanding how VS Code works, which is obviously like killing two birds with one stone. So it might be worth it just because of that. So, and it's also gonna have me an idea of how the design that they implemented, because I think like I'm not gonna try to implement anything similar. I think it's just gonna be different, but I think it's gonna be good to have an idea of how they approach things. So because it's the thing that's like you don't know what you don't know. So I think by going over the source code, it might help me understand like what could be potential problems with the stuff that I'm trying to implement on the other one, which I already have a general like I have the idea of the next steps, what I want to do, which is basically just implement the code, the IDE, which the file doc, which is basically like the files here, and the terminal. I think those are the two things that I have to implement there on the other one. And I already have like kind of an idea of how it's gonna work, but obviously I'm not aware of anything that can be a problem, because I think it's gonna be very challenging when it comes to the types and the suggestions and stuff like that. So it might be good to go over, spend more time trying to understand how they do it, how they did it here. Which I think I'm already beginning to understand. So, and I'm gonna see if I can find videos and go over because I haven't read the documentation yet. So I'm gonna do that as well. So next time, either I'm going to continue to go over the source code here. But for the paths, I'm probably gonna just look into the documentation because I think it's easier. But I might continue to study anyway, because I was curious even before to see, understand how it works on here. So either I'm going to continue to explore this and uh, try to go over with the debugger if I can, or I'm going to just get the paths from the documentation and try to implement them on the classes on Godot. And once I'm able to do this, then, which is also not that big of a deal because I can choose any path that I want there on the beginning on the file dialog. It doesn't have to be a standard path, but I think it's better if I try to do it with a standard path. So after I choose a path there, and I was able to solve the problems that I had before with the updates there. It seems that it's working now. It's not like ideal, but it's working, so I don't care that much because like it's very similar to the way that the file system doc was before, and it's basically I'm putting the main difference that I had to make is call scan instead of scan changes, because I don't know what was happening with scan changes, but I think it was something related to the threads. So once I put scan to call scan on the class there, then it seems that it's working now. So I'm just gonna leave it like that for now, and I'm gonna focus on trying to implement the other two docs there. And then, yeah, once I have the other two docs, I'm gonna have the full scene, and then I'm gonna have to think about the simulation. And probably think about these other things that are gonna be very annoying, like connecting the file system with the IDE, and also the type and the compilers and then all this other stuff. And for that reason, it might be a good idea to continue to study VS Code. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. Either one of the two options, either study VS Code more or to continue with the steps here. So see you then.